She was just a maid's daughter, a human child who should have been invisible. But when she reached into the vampire boy's ear and pulled out something dark and writhing, she did not just restore his hearing. She awakened something far more dangerous in his father's cold, immortal heart. The prince had lived in silence for 17 years before a 6-year-old human child gave him the world. Welcome to another story in our growing family of vampire love tales. Before we dive deep into this mystery, just a second before we continue, my ex said my dreams would die because no one would support me. I'm shaking as I say this, but you can change that. Please subscribe now and comment on your location so he sees that people all over the world stand with me. Now let's begin. The grand hall of the Crimson Court was silent, but not the peaceful kind of silence. It was the heavy, suffocating quiet that came from centuries of vampire tradition pressing down on everyone within the obsidian walls. Prince Adrian stood beside his father's throne, his eyes scanning the lips of the visiting dignitaries as they spoke words he could not hear. He'd become exceptional at reading lips over the years. He had to be. The alternative was irrelevance, and irrelevant princes did not survive vampire politics. His father, King Nathaniel, gestured sharply. Adrian caught the movement in his peripheral vision and turned with practiced grace. The king's lips formed familiar words. Pay attention. Stop drifting. Adrian nodded, his jaw tight. He wanted to scream that he was paying attention, that he was always paying attention, that reading lips and interpreting gestures exhausted him in ways his father would never understand. But he simply nodded. Always nodded. In the shadows near the eastern corridor, a young human woman knelt, scrubbing the marble floors that never seemed to get dirty. Her name was Clara, and she'd served the vampire court for 8 years. Her hands were raw from the harsh soaps they provided, but she didn't complain. Complaining got humans dismissed, and dismissal from the Crimson Court meant returning to the outer villages where starvation was common and protection from rogue vampires non-existent. Beside Clara, humming a tune only she could hear, was her daughter. 6-year-old Isla, with curious brown eyes and tangled dark hair she refused to let her mother braid properly. Isla, stop wandering, Clara's lips formed silently, urgently. The child had a habit of drifting toward places servants were forbidden. But Isla's attention had caught on something else entirely. The sad prince. The one who never smiled. The one everyone whispered about when they thought children weren't listening. She'd heard the other servants talking. Born broken, they said. Cursed, some claimed. A disappointment to the king. Isla didn't understand most of it, but she understood sad. And the prince, standing so straight and still beside that enormous throne, looked desperately sad. The meeting concluded. Adrian turned to leave and nearly collided with a small human child who'd somehow materialized directly in his path. His guards moved instantly, hands on weapons, but Adrian raised his hand. Stop. He'd learned the gesture young. The child looked up at him with eyes that held no fear. Strange. Humans usually feared him, even the servants who saw him daily. They feared his father more, but they feared all vampires by instinct. The little girl tilted her head, studying him with unnerving focus. Then she did something that shocked every guard in the corridor. She reached up and touched his face. Her small, warm fingers traced the side of his jaw, moved to his ear, then she leaned closer, squinting. Clara appeared instantly, horror painted across her features. Her lips formed frantic apologies as she reached for her daughter, but Adrian held up his hand again. Wait. Something in the child's expression held him frozen. She wasn't being disrespectful. She was examining him like a puzzle she was trying to solve. Isla's small finger pointed directly at his ear. Her lips moved in simple words he could read easily. Something's in there. Something moving. Adrian's breath caught. Physicians had examined his ears hundreds of times over the years. They'd found nothing. Declared his deafness a birth defect, untreatable, permanent. But this child, this tiny human girl, insisted she saw something moving. Before anyone could stop her, before Clara could pull her away, before the guards could intervene, Isla stood on her toes, steadied herself against Adrian's arm, and peered directly into his ear canal. Her eyes widened. Then, with the fearless conviction only a child possessed, she reached her small finger inside. What happened next would be whispered about in the Crimson Court for generations. Adrian felt the strange sensation immediately. A pressure he'd grown so accustomed to that he'd stopped noticing it years ago. But now, with this child's finger carefully probing, that pressure shifted. Moved. Something was in there. Actually in there. Isla's face scrunched in concentration. Her tongue poked out slightly as she hooked her finger and pulled with surprising determination for someone so small. Adrian's instinct was to jerk away, but something kept him absolutely still. Hope. That terrible, dangerous thing he'd buried long ago. Then she pulled it free. The creature was massive, far too large to have possibly fit inside a human ear, let alone a vampire's. A centipede, glossy black with a dark red underbelly, easily the length of Isla's entire hand. It writhed in her grip, hundreds of legs scrambling for purchase. Its body pulsed with an unnatural rhythm, almost like it was breathing. The moment it left Adrian's ear canal, it released a high-pitched shriek that made every vampire in the corridor freeze. But Adrian didn't hear the shriek. What Adrian heard was everything else. The gasp from his guard. The scrape of boots on marble. Clara's sharp intake of breath. The distant sound of fountain water in the courtyard. The rustle of his own clothing. His father's voice booming from the throne room. Sound. Actual sound. Not the muffled, distant vibrations he'd sometimes felt, but clear, overwhelming, devastating sound. His knees buckled. The world became a symphony of noise that crashed over him like a physical force. He heard his own breathing, ragged and fast. Heard his heartbeat thundering in his ears. Heard the little girl's voice, high and proud, saying words that cut straight through to his soul. I fixed you. Adrian's hand shot out to the wall for balance. Tears streamed down his face before he could stop them. A vampire prince, crying in front of servants and guards. It should have humiliated him. Instead, he didn't care. He could hear. After 17 years of silence, he could hear. He looked down at Isla, still holding the monstrous centipede like a trophy. She smiled at him, gap-toothed and innocent, completely unaware that she'd just performed a miracle that would change both their lives forever. The creature in her hand finally stopped moving, its body going rigid before crumbling to ash that slipped through her fingers. Whatever it had been, it couldn't survive outside its host. A parasite. He'd had a parasite feeding on him for 17 years, and no vampire physician had ever detected it. But a 6-year-old human girl had. The next 3 days were chaos. King Nathaniel summoned every royal physician to explain how they'd missed a massive parasite in the crown prince's ear. Heads would roll, he promised. Literally. Adrian was poked, prodded, examined by dozens of specialists who all arrived at the same impossible conclusion. His hearing was perfect. Better than perfect. He could hear frequencies most vampires couldn't detect. The creature, what little ash remained of it, was sent to the royal laboratories. The reports came back stamped with words that made Adrian's blood run cold. Unknown species. Possibly ancient. Possibly magical. Possibly planted. That last word hung in the air like poison. Planted. Someone had deliberately put that thing in his ear when he was an infant. Someone had stolen 17 years of his life. But when Adrian asked about the girl, about Isla and her mother, he was met with dismissive waves. "They've been rewarded," his father said. The maid received a modest purse of gold. The child received a new dress. Consider the matter handled. Handled. As if a gold purse and a dress equaled what that little girl had given him. Adrian wanted to argue, but the overwhelming flood of sound still disoriented him. Every conversation, every footstep, every breath felt like too much. He spent hours in his chambers with his hands over his ears, trying to adapt to a sense he'd never had the chance to develop naturally. He told himself that was why he didn't seek Isla out. Because he was adjusting. Because he had responsibilities. Because a prince didn't form attachments to servant children. But late at night, when the castle finally quieted, he admitted the truth to himself. He was afraid. Afraid of what he might feel when he heard her voice again. Afraid of owing a debt he could never repay. Afraid that looking into those curious brown eyes would undo something fundamental in him. So he avoided the eastern corridors. Took different routes through the castle. Pretended he didn't notice Clara cleaning nearby, her daughter conspicuously absent, likely kept away on purpose. It should have been easier this way. Cleaner. A transaction completed, a miracle received, both parties moving forward. But 3 nights after his healing, Adrian woke from a nightmare, gasping. And in that moment of terror, the first sound he wanted to hear was a small voice saying, "I fixed you." The opportunity came during the Festival of Shadows, an annual vampire celebration that required every castle resident, including servants, to participate in the night market held in the lower courtyards. Adrian normally hated the festival. Too many people, too much chaos, and his previous inability to hear meant he'd missed conversations and looked foolish more times than he cared to remember. But this year, sound painted the festival in completely new colors. Music, actual music, poured from the string quartets positioned around the fountains. Laughter echoed off the stone walls. The sizzle of food vendors cooking spiced blood pastries filled the air with sounds he could finally match to smells. He was standing near the fountain, genuinely smiling for perhaps the first time in years, when he heard it. A child's cry of frustration. He turned and spotted her immediately. Isla, wearing the new dress his father's gold had purchased, backed into a corner by 3 vampire children slightly older than her. Their lips moved in words he was still learning to hear clearly in crowded spaces, but their body language spoke clearly enough. They were mocking her. Cornering her. Reminding her she didn't belong. Adrian moved before thinking. His presence scattered the vampire children instantly. They recognized the crown prince and fled with mumbled apologies he didn't bother to acknowledge. Isla looked up at him with those same fearless eyes, but now they were wet with unshed tears. "Can you hear me now?" Her lips formed carefully, her small voice barely audible even with his restored hearing. "Yes," Adrian said, and the word felt strange on his tongue. Speaking when you could hear your own voice was different. He'd been practicing, but still felt clumsy. "Thanks to you, I can hear everything." Isla's tears spilled over, but she was smiling. "Good. Your eyes were too sad before. Sad eyes are heavy." Something in Adrian's chest cracked open. This child, this tiny human who'd saved him, was worried about whether his eyes looked sad. Before he could respond, the crowd surged with dancers moving to a new song. Bodies pressed close in the confined courtyard space. Someone jostled Isla forward, and instinctively, Adrian caught her, lifting her up to keep her from being trampled. She was so light. So warm. Vampires ran cold, but humans radiated heat like small furnaces. He'd never held a human child before. Never held any child before. Her arms wrapped around his neck with complete trust, and she tucked her head against his shoulder as if it were the most natural thing in the world. The crowd won't clear for a while. Adrian found himself saying, "I should get you back to your mother." "Where is she?" Isla pointed toward the servant quarters entrance, but made no move to leave his arms. "Working. Always working. Mama says we have to work extra hard because I touched you without permission. She says I could have gotten us thrown out." "You saved my life," Adrian said firmly. "You're a hero. Mama says heroes are for storybooks. We're just servants." The casual way she said it, the complete acceptance of her place in the world, made Adrian's jaw tighten. He adjusted his grip on her and began moving through the crowd, using his princely authority to clear a path. People moved aside instantly, though he caught their stares. A prince carrying a human servant child. Unheard of. He should have cared. Should have put her down and sent her off with a guard. But her small warm weight against him felt like the first real thing he'd experienced in 17 years of going through royal motions. "What's your name?" he asked, though he already knew. He wanted to hear her say it. "Isla. And you're Prince Adrian. Everyone knows you." "What else does everyone know?" "That you couldn't hear, but now you can because I pulled the monster from your ear." She said it with simple pride, and it made him smile despite himself. They reached the servant entrance, but neither moved to separate. The festival continued behind them, loud and chaotic. Here, in this quiet corner, Adrian could hear smaller sounds. Isla's heartbeat, fast like a bird's. Her breathing, steady and calm. She wasn't afraid of him at all. "Can I ask you something?" he said quietly. "How did you see it when no one else could?" Isla pulled back to look at his face, her expression serious. "Because I wasn't looking for what I expected to see. I was just looking at you. Really looking. Everyone else looks at princes, not people." Adrian felt those words sink into him like stones into water, creating ripples that spread through everything he thought he understood about his place in the world. From that night forward, he stopped avoiding her. "You've been watching for a while now, and I really hope you're feeling this story the way I felt it while creating it. If you are, don't just disappear without letting me know. Drop a comment and tell me, do you think Adrian should have stayed away from Isla to protect her, or was he right to let her into his life? I stayed up putting this together for you, so at least reward the effort with your thoughts and that subscribe button. Seriously, don't break my heart. One click means everything." 10 years passed like water through fingers. Isla grew from a curious child into a striking young woman of 16, and Adrian matured from a newly healed prince into a formidable vampire lord of 27. But some things never changed. The bond forged that night at the festival only deepened with time. Against every protocol, every tradition, every whispered warning from advisors, Adrian had kept Isla close. He'd insisted she receive education alongside the noble children. Taught her to read in the royal library during stolen hours after midnight. Trained her in chess, in history, in philosophy. Clara had protested at first, terrified her daughter was being set up for a fall that would destroy them both. But Adrian's determination was absolute, and the king, still grateful for his son's restored hearing, allowed the eccentricity. What no one understood, what Adrian barely understood himself, was that Isla had become essential to him. Not as a servant. Not even as a friend. As something he had no name for. She saw him clearly, completely, the way she had when she was 6 years old. No fear. No pretense. Just honest sight. On the 10th anniversary of his healing, Adrian found Isla in the library where they'd spent countless nights. She was curled in the window seat, moonlight painting her features in silver. She'd grown beautiful, though she seemed utterly unaware of it. Her hair, once tangled and wild, now fell in dark waves past her shoulders. Her curious brown eyes had gained depth, knowledge, and something that made Adrian's chest ache when she looked at him. She was reading a book about parasitic organisms, he noticed. Always curious. Always searching. Still trying to understand what you pulled from my ear? He asked, settling into the chair across from her. Isla looked up, and her smile was soft. I never stopped wondering about it. The library texts mention shadow feeders, creatures that attach to hosts in infancy and feed on specific senses. But they're supposed to be extinct. Gone for centuries. Maybe the last one found me, Adrian said, attempting lightness he didn't feel. Or someone placed it there, Isla said quietly, her eyes meeting his. You've thought about it too. I can tell. He had. Constantly. The word planted haunted him. But his father had forbidden further investigation years ago, declaring the matter closed. Dwelling on the past helped nothing, King Nathaniel insisted. Adrian had his hearing. That should be enough. But it wasn't enough. Not for Adrian. And apparently not for Isla either. I found something, she said, hesitation in her voice. I wasn't snooping, I promise. I was reshelving books in the restricted section, you know how the librarian lets me help now, and I found medical records. Old ones. From when you were born. Adrian's whole body went still. What did they say? Isla pulled a folded parchment from inside her book. Her hands trembled slightly as she handed it to him. The physician who delivered you noted that your hearing was perfect at birth. He tested it. Recorded it. But 3 days later, a different physician, someone named Dr. Cornelius Thorne, examined you and declared you deaf. No explanation. No investigation. Just a declaration. Adrian unfolded the parchment, his enhanced vision easily reading the faded script in the dim light. There it was. Born with perfect hearing responses. And then, 3 days later, a single line in different handwriting. Prince declared deaf. Cause unknown. Prognosis, permanent. Who is Dr. Thorne? Isla asked. I searched every record. He appeared for your birth, stayed at the castle for 2 weeks, then vanished. No other mentions. It's like he was erased. Adrian's mind raced. Someone had done this to him deliberately. Stolen his hearing when he was only days old. But who? And why would his father have allowed the investigation to be closed if these records existed? Unless his father didn't know. Unless someone had buried this information so deeply that even the king hadn't seen it. There's more, Isla whispered. She pulled out another document, this one even older. I cross-referenced the name. Dr. Cornelius Thorne served in the court of your grandfather, King Magnus. He was executed 28 years ago for treason and dark magic experimentation. But that would mean he was already dead when you were born, unless someone used his identity, Adrian finished. His blood ran cold. Someone planted that creature in my ear using a dead physician's credentials, ensuring they couldn't be traced. The implications crashed over him. This wasn't random. This was a conspiracy that reached into the heart of the royal court. Someone had wanted him disabled. Weakened. Perhaps hoping he'd never take the throne. Isla's warm hand covered his, pulling him from the spiral of dark thoughts. Adrian, whoever did this failed. You're whole now. You're strong. And we'll find out who's responsible. She said we so naturally, as if it were obvious that she'd stand beside him in this. As if a human servant girl had any business involving herself in vampire royal conspiracies. It should have annoyed him. Instead, it filled him with something dangerously close to love. "This could be dangerous," he said, turning his hand to properly hold hers. Her skin was so warm against his cool palm. If someone was willing to curse an infant prince, they won't hesitate to hurt anyone who digs into their secrets. "Then it's good I'm not afraid," Isla said, though he could hear the slight acceleration of her heartbeat that betrayed her nerves. "You should be," Adrian said seriously, holding her gaze. "You should be terrified. You should stay far away from me and this entire mess." "Should I?" she asked softly. "Is that really what you want?" The question hung between them, heavy with 10 years of unspoken feelings. Adrian knew the right answer. The safe answer. Yes, stay away. Protect yourself. But when he opened his mouth, different words emerged. "No," he whispered. "I want you exactly where you are. I've always wanted you close. Even when I shouldn't. Even when it's selfish and dangerous and completely inappropriate." Isla's breath caught. Her eyes searched his face, and whatever she saw there made her squeeze his hand tighter. "Then stop trying to push me away for my own good. Let me decide what risks I'm willing to take." In that moment, surrounded by books and moonlight and dangerous truths, Adrian realized he'd been fooling himself for years. This wasn't gratitude. Wasn't friendship. Wasn't fascination with the girl who'd saved him. This was love. Absolute. Impossible. Forbidden. And from the way Isla was looking at him, she felt it too. They began investigating in secret. Late nights in the library became their sanctuary, surrounded by old records and whispered theories. Isla's human perspective proved invaluable. She noticed inconsistencies that Adrian's royal education had trained him to overlook. She questioned everything, while he'd been taught to accept the official narrative. 2 weeks into their search, Isla discovered a pattern. 5 other noble vampire children had been born around the same time as Adrian. All had died within their first year from mysterious illnesses. No clear causes. No survivors. Just 5 noble families left childless and grieving. "What if you weren't the only target?" Isla said one night, spreading the death certificates across the library table. What if someone was eliminating an entire generation of vampire nobility? But with you, something went wrong. The parasite was supposed to kill you, but instead it just took your hearing. Adrian studied the names. Houses that had once held significant political power but had faded after losing their heirs. This wasn't just about me. This was about destabilizing the entire noble structure. Who would benefit from that? Isla asked. Before Adrian could answer, footsteps echoed in the hallway. They moved and practiced synchronization, Isla gathering the documents while Adrian casually pulled a book from the shelf. By the time the door opened, they looked like prince and servant engaged in innocent late-night reading. But it was only Clara, Isla's mother, carrying fresh linens. She paused when she saw them, her expression carefully neutral. "It's nearly dawn, Your Highness. Isla should return to our quarters." There was something in Clara's tone. Not quite accusation, but definitely concern. She'd watched her daughter spend 10 years in Adrian's orbit, and she wasn't blind to what was developing between them. "Of course," Adrian said formally. "Thank you for your assistance with the cataloging, Isla." Isla nodded, playing her role perfectly. But as she passed him, their fingers brushed in a touch that lasted a fraction too long. Clara noticed. Her lips pressed into a thin line. After they left, Adrian remained in the library, staring at the documents they'd hidden. They were close to something. He could feel it. But the closer they got, the more dangerous this became for Isla. The next evening, he found Isla in the castle gardens, a place servants were technically allowed but rarely visited. She was sitting beneath an ancient oak, and when she saw him, her face lit up in a way that made his dead heart ache. "I shouldn't be here," Adrian said, even as he sat beside her. "You say that every time," Isla pointed out. "And yet here you are." "Here I am," he agreed. The garden was quiet, private. For once, they didn't have to pretend. "Your mother is worried. She's always worried. She thinks I'm going to get hurt." "She's not wrong," Adrian said quietly. "Isla, if anyone discovers what we're investigating, or if they realize that you and I have become," he paused, unsure how to finish. "What were they exactly?" "Friends?" Isla offered, but there was a challenge in her eyes. "Is that what we are?" Adrian asked, turning to face her fully. The last of the daylight was fading, and in the twilight, Isla looked ethereal. She met his gaze steadily. "I don't know what we are. I just know that when I'm with you, I feel like I'm exactly where I belong. Even though every logical part of me knows that's impossible." "Nothing about us has ever been logical," Adrian said. "You pulled a monster from my ear when you were 6 years old. Logic stopped applying to us a long time ago." Isla laughed, and the sound was music he never tired of hearing. "Fair point." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, then Isla's expression turned serious. "Adrian, I need to tell you something. About that day. About why I could see the parasite when no one else could." He waited, giving her space to find the words. "I've always been able to see things," she said slowly. "Not like visions or prophecies. But I can see energy, life force, whatever you want to call it. It looks like light to me. Vampires glow silver. Humans glow gold. And that thing in your ear glowed black, like it was absorbing your light. I didn't understand what I was seeing back then. I just knew it didn't belong." Adrian stared at her. "You can see life force? Isla, that's an incredibly rare gift. Even among vampires, only the most ancient can perceive energy like that." "I know it's strange," she said defensively. "I've never told anyone except you. Not even my mother knows. I was afraid if anyone found out, they'd think I was dangerous or useful or..." "Extraordinary," Adrian interrupted. "They'd think you're extraordinary. Because you are." Isla's cheeks flushed. "I'm just a servant's daughter who happens to see weird lights around people. You're the person who saved my life. Who's brilliant and brave and sees truth that everyone else misses." Adrian reached out, gently tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered against her cheek. "You're the only person in this entire kingdom who looks at me and sees just Adrian. Not the prince. Not the heir. Not the deaf boy who was fixed. Just me. I like just you," Isla whispered. The space between them felt charged, electric. Adrian knew he should pull away. Knew that crossing this line would complicate everything. But he'd been fighting this for years, and his resistance had finally crumbled to dust. "Isla," he breathed. "If I kiss you right now, everything changes. We can't go back." "Good," she said. "I don't want to go back." So he kissed her. Soft and careful at first, then deeper as she responded, her hands coming up to tangle in his hair. She tasted like honey in summer, and kissing her felt like finally hearing music after years of silence. This was another kind of healing, another missing piece sliding into place. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrian pressed his forehead to hers. "This is dangerous. I know. My father will never approve. I know. The court will say you're using me, or I'm disgracing myself. I know, Adrian. I know all of it." Isla pulled back to meet his eyes. But I'm not afraid of danger or disapproval or scandal. I'm only afraid of pretending I don't love you when I do. The words hit him like a physical blow. Love. She'd said it out loud, made it real and undeniable. I love you too, he said, and hearing himself say it with his own ears made it feel like an oath. I have for years. I think I started loving you the moment you said you fixed me. Isla smiled, tears gathering in her eyes. Then we'll figure out the rest together. Like we figure out everything else. For that perfect moment, Adrian let himself believe it could be that simple. All right, I need you to do something for me right now. Pause and tell me in the comments, have you ever loved someone you knew the world would never accept? Someone who felt right even when everything said it was wrong? Share your story because these comments, your stories, they're what keep me going. And if you haven't subscribed yet, imagine watching all this emotional journey and just leaving without joining our family. Don't do me like that. Hit subscribe. We have so much more planned for you. For 3 weeks, Adrian and Isla existed in a secret paradise. Stolen kisses in shadowed corridors. Whispered confessions in the library. Plans for a future they both knew was impossible but couldn't stop dreaming about. They continued investigating the conspiracy, growing closer to the truth with each discovery. Then everything shattered in a single night. Adrian was summoned to the throne room at midnight. Unusual, but not unprecedented. His father occasionally called emergency council meetings. But when Adrian entered, he found not a council, but a tribunal. King Nathaniel sat on his throne, his expression carved from ice. Beside him stood Lord Cassius, the king's oldest advisor, and 3 other high-ranking nobles. And at the center of the room, flanked by guards, stood Isla and her mother. Clara was weeping. Isla's face was pale but defiant, her chin raised even as her hands trembled. Father, what is this? Adrian demanded. This, King Nathaniel said coldly, is a reckoning. Lord Cassius stepped forward, holding a familiar leather journal. Adrian's blood turned to ice. That was his private journal, kept locked in his chambers. The journal where he'd documented everything. The investigation. His feelings for Isla. Every secret laid bare on those pages. We've discovered a plot against the crown, Lord Cassius announced, his voice carrying through the massive chamber. One that has been unfolding for 10 years, hiding in plain sight. What are you talking about? Adrian said, but dread was already coiling in his stomach. The girl, Cassius said, gesturing toward Isla with disgust. She's been manipulating you since childhood. Using her abilities to bind you to her, to gain influence over the future king. That's insane, Adrian snapped. Isla saved my life. She pulled the parasite. Did she? Cassius interrupted. Or did she plant it there in the first place? The accusation was so absurd that Adrian actually laughed. She was 6 years old when she removed it. I'd been deaf for 17 years. Your math doesn't work, Cassius. Her mother had access to the royal nursery, Cassius continued smoothly. Clara served as a wet nurse during your infancy. She had opportunity. And these humans have been documented as having strange abilities. The girl can see energy, life force. She admitted as much to you, did she not? It's all in your journal. Adrian's eyes shot to Isla. Her expression confirmed it. Somehow, they knew about her gift. About everything she'd told him in confidence. Magic that rare in a human? Cassius pressed. It's unnatural. Forbidden. The kind of power that comes from dark practices. We believe Clara was working with Dr. Thorne, or whoever used his identity. She placed the parasite. And 16 years later, her daughter conveniently discovers it, making herself a hero in your eyes, binding you to her with gratitude that she's carefully cultivated into something far more dangerous. No, Adrian said firmly. Absolutely not. Isla would never. Read your own words, Your Highness, Cassius said, opening the journal. You yourself wrote Isla has become essential to me. I cannot imagine my life without her. She has entangled herself so completely in my thoughts that I find myself making decisions based on what would please her. Does that sound like natural affection or magical compulsion? Adrian's own words, written in a moment of vulnerable honesty, were being twisted into evidence of manipulation. I wasn't describing compulsion. I was describing love. The word echoed through the throne room. Several nobles gasped. King Nathaniel's expression darkened further. Love, the king repeated, his voice deadly quiet. You claim to love a human servant. The same human who has been secretly investigating royal records, accessing restricted archives, uncovering sealed documents about noble deaths. What was her purpose, Adrian? What was she truly searching for? We were searching for who hurt me, Adrian said desperately. Who planted the parasite? There were other deaths, other noble children. Yes, Cassius interrupted. Deaths that occurred in houses that opposed your grandfather's reign. Houses that were quietly eliminated by King Magnus Sorter to secure the throne for his bloodline. It's not a conspiracy, Your Highness. It's your family's buried history. A history this girl has been digging up to use against you. Adrian felt the ground shifting beneath him. That's not true. My grandfather wouldn't. Your grandfather did what was necessary to secure peace, King Nathaniel said harshly. I sealed those records to protect the throne's reputation. To protect you from ugly truths. And this servant girl has been poisoning your mind against your own blood, making you doubt your family while binding you to her. She hasn't poisoned anything, Adrian shouted. She's been helping me find the truth. The truth, King Nathaniel said, standing from his throne, is that you are my son and heir. And you have allowed yourself to be seduced and manipulated by a human girl with dangerous abilities. It ends tonight. He gestured to the guards. Take Clara to the dungeons. She'll be executed at dawn for conspiracy against the crown. No. Isla's voice rang out, clear and desperate. She lunged forward, but guards caught her. My mother did nothing wrong. She's innocent. I'm the one who found the records. I'm the one who used your unnatural gifts to bewitch my son, Nathaniel finished. Yes, child. We know. You'll be stripped of your abilities and banished from the kingdom. A mercy you don't deserve. Stripped of her abilities. Adrian knew what that meant. A brutal magical procedure that would leave Isla blind to the energy she'd seen her entire life. It would be like going deaf. He knew exactly what that felt like, and he wouldn't let them do it to her. Father, stop this, Adrian said, moving between the guards and Isla. You're wrong about all of it. Isla has done nothing but help me. If you want to punish someone, punish me for falling in love against protocol. But leave them alone. Step aside, Adrian, the king commanded. No. The word hung in the air like a sword. A prince did not refuse a direct command from his king. The entire court held its breath. King Nathaniel's eyes flashed dangerously. You would defy me? For a human? I would defy you for someone innocent who's being condemned on lies and twisted evidence, Adrian said. Everything Cassius has said is speculation and paranoia. You have no proof. We have this, Cassius said, pulling something from his robes. a small vial containing a black liquid that seemed to writhe. We found it hidden in the girl's quarters. Shadow essence. The same substance used to create the parasite that was placed in your ear. She's been cultivating it, Your Highness. Likely planning to use it again. Isla's face went white. That's not mine. I've never seen that before. Someone planted it there, just like they planted the parasite in Adrian. But even as she said it, Adrian saw the doubt flicker across his father's face. The evidence was too convenient, too damning. This was a setup, but it was masterfully executed. Adrian, Isla said, her voice breaking as she met his eyes. You know me. You know I would never hurt you. Please, you have to believe me. He looked at her, this girl who'd given him the world, who'd spent 10 years by his side, who'd kissed him in the garden and whispered that she loved him. He knew her heart, knew her soul. But a small, poisonous voice whispered in his mind. The same voice that had comforted him through 17 years of silence, protecting him from hope that might be crushed. What if they're right? What if you've been blind? She does have strange abilities. Her mother did have access to you as an infant. And you yourself wrote that she's entangled in your thoughts, that you make decisions to please her. What if this has all been manipulation? No. He shoved the thought away violently. That was fear talking. That was trauma from years of being broken, making him doubt the one pure thing in his life. I believe you, he said to Isla, putting every ounce of conviction into the words. I know you're innocent. Relief flooded her face. Then tell them. Make them understand. Adrian turned to his father. This is a setup. Someone is framing Isla and Clara to separate us. To stop us from discovering the real truth about what happened to me and those other noble children. Or, King Nathaniel said coldly, you are so thoroughly under her spell that you cannot see reason. Lord Cassius, how long would the procedure take to strip her abilities? No, Adrian said again, more desperately. Father, please. Don't do this. Would you give up your crown for her? King Nathaniel asked suddenly. If I commanded you to choose right now, the throne or this human girl, what would you choose? The throne room went absolutely silent. Every eye fixed on Adrian. He felt the weight of the question crushing him. His entire life, he'd been raised to be king. Despite his disability, despite the doubts, he dedicated every moment to being worthy of the crown. But Isla had given him himself. Had seen him when he was invisible. Had loved him when he believed he was unlovable. He started. Don't, Isla said suddenly, her voice sharp. Adrian, don't you dare. He looked at her in confusion. Tears streamed down her face, but her expression was fierce. I won't let you sacrifice everything for me. I won't be the reason you lose your throne, your family, your future. I'm not worth that. You are, Adrian said desperately. Isla, you're worth everything. No, she said, and her voice turned cold. Hard. I'm not. Maybe they're right. Maybe I did get too close. Maybe I did manipulate you without meaning to. How would I even know? You read about my abilities for the first time in the same books I did. What if my gift does more than just see? What if it influences? Binds? Stop it, Adrian said. You're just saying what they want to hear. I'm saying what I should have said years ago, Isla said, and the emotion drained from her voice. I'm a servant. You're a prince. Whatever I felt, whatever you thought you felt, it was a fantasy. A mistake. And I'm sorry I let it go this far. Each word was a knife between his ribs. Adrian stared at her, trying to find the truth behind the lie he knew she was telling. But Isla's face had become a mask, perfectly blank. "Take my mother and me," she said to the king, not looking at Adrian anymore. "Banish us. Strip my abilities if you must. But let Prince Adrian move forward with his life. He deserves better than this." "Isla, stop," Adrian begged. "Don't do this." But she wouldn't meet his eyes. She'd severed the connection between them as cleanly as a blade through silk. And Adrian understood. She was protecting him, sacrificing herself and what they had to save him from having to make an impossible choice. It should have made him love her more. Instead, it felt like betrayal. Like she didn't trust him enough to fight for them. Like she believed the lies about herself. "Very well," King Nathaniel said. "Exile for both of them. They leave at dawn." Guards moved forward, taking Isla and Clara away. Isla didn't look back. Not once. Adrian stood frozen in the throne room, surrounded by vampires who thought they'd saved him from manipulation, while his heart shattered into pieces he didn't know how to gather. "You'll thank me one day," his father said quietly. "When the compulsion fades and you can think clearly again." But Adrian barely heard him. All he could hear was Isla's voice saying, "I'm not worth that." Saying it was a mistake. Destroying them to save him. And the terrible, traitorous part of him that whispered, "What if she meant it?" Adrian didn't sleep. He stood at his chamber window watching the sky slowly brighten, knowing that with the dawn, Isla and Clara would be taken from the kingdom forever. His father had shown mercy by choosing exile over execution, but it felt like death anyway. His mind replayed the throne room scene over and over. Isla's cold words. Her blank expression. The way she'd refused to look at him at the end. Part of him understood she'd been protecting him, making the sacrifice easier by pretending she didn't care. But another part, the part that had spent 17 years believing he was broken and unworthy, whispered darker possibilities. What if the compulsion was real? What if everything you felt was manufactured? What if she did use you? He hated that voice. Hated that years of trauma had left him vulnerable to doubt even the most certain thing in his life. Because he was certain. Wasn't he? Adrian moved to his desk where his journal lay open, the pages he'd written about Isla exposed for the court to judge. He read his own words again, trying to see them through objective eyes. She sees patterns I miss. Questions assumptions I've been trained to accept. When I'm with her, I think more clearly, not less. That wasn't compulsion. That was partnership. I find myself making decisions based on what would please her. He read the full context this time, the part Cassius had conveniently omitted. I find myself making decisions based on what would please her, which forces me to examine my motivations more honestly. She makes me want to be better than I am. That wasn't magical influence. That was love. Adrian slammed the journal shut. They twisted his words, manipulated the evidence, and orchestrated the perfect trap. But who was they? His father seemed to genuinely believe Isla was dangerous. Cassius had presented the evidence, but where had it come from? The shadow essence. Found in Isla's quarters. Too convenient. Adrian's mind sharpened, the fog of emotional devastation clearing his logic took over. Someone had planted that vial the same way someone had planted the parasite 17 years ago. The same person who'd used a dead physician's identity. The same person who'd killed 5 noble children. And that person was still here, in the castle, close enough to access Isla's quarters and his private journal. Close enough to whisper poison in the king's ear. Adrian stood abruptly and left his chambers. The castle was quiet in the pre-dawn hours, most of the court still sleeping after the dramatic tribunal. He made his way to the restricted archives, the same place where Isla had found the original medical records. The guard at the door straightened when he saw the prince. "Your Highness, the king gave orders that these archives are to remain sealed." "The king gave you those orders personally?" Adrian asked. The guard hesitated. "Lord Cassius delivered them on the king's behalf." "Of course he did. I'm countermanding them." "Open the door." "Sir, I can't without direct authorization from..." Adrian let his voice drop into the command tone he rarely used. "I am your future king. Open this door or spend the rest of your existence regretting that you didn't." The guard's resistance crumbled. He unlocked the archive entrance and stepped aside. Inside, Adrian began pulling records systematically. Birth certificates, death certificates, service records. He spread them across the table, looking for the pattern Isla would have seen immediately. She taught him how to look past the official narrative to the truth hiding underneath. There. Service records showing that Lord Cassius had been assigned as personal advisor to King Magnus 40 years ago, right around the time the suspicious noble deaths began. And another record, partially destroyed by what looked like deliberate burning, mentioning Cassius's expertise in rare parasitic magic. Adrian's hands trembled as he unfolded another document. A letter, sealed with the royal stamp but never sent. Written in his grandfather's handwriting. "Cassius, your methods grow too dangerous. The shadow feeders were meant to weaken political enemies, not target children. This ends now, or I end you." Shadow feeders. The same creatures mentioned in Isla's research. His grandfather had known. Had been complicit, then tried to stop it. And shortly after this letter was written, King Magnus had died suddenly. Officially from natural causes. But Adrian was beginning to suspect there was nothing natural about it at all. Footsteps echoed behind him. Adrian turned to find Lord Cassius standing in the archive entrance, his expression unreadable. "I wondered when you'd find your way here," Cassius said calmly. "You're more persistent than your grandfather." He was willing to look away, to accept necessary evils for the sake of the kingdom. "But you've always been inconveniently idealistic." "You killed him," Adrian said. "And my mother. She died when I was 5 from a sudden illness." "Another shadow feeder?" Cassius smiled, and it was the coldest thing Adrian had ever seen. "Your mother discovered what I'd done to you. She was going to expose me, have me executed. I couldn't allow that. The illness was regrettable but necessary." Rage flooded through Adrian, so intense his vision darkened at the edges. "You murdered my mother and stole my hearing. Why? What could possibly justify that?" "Power," Cassius said simply. "Your grandfather was weak, plagued by conscience. Your father is stronger but still bound by outdated notions of honor. I've spent 40 years positioning myself to truly control this kingdom. With you deaf and dependent, isolated and insecure, you would have been perfect. A king I could whisper suggestions to, guide, control completely. But Isla ruined that," Adrian said, understanding flooding through him. "She gave me my hearing back. Made me independent. Strong. That human girl destroyed decades of careful work," Cassius hissed, his composure finally cracking. "And then she made it worse by teaching you to question, to investigate, to think beyond what you were told. She was turning you into a king I couldn't control. So yes, I framed her. I planted the shadow essence in her quarters. I stole your journal and presented it to your father with carefully selected excerpts. He'll never believe you orchestrated all this," Adrian said. "My father trusts you. Which is why he'll believe me when I tell him you attacked me in a rage, still under the girl's compulsion, and I was forced to defend myself," Cassius said. His hand moved to his belt, pulling free a blade that gleamed with dark magic. "They'll find you here, surrounded by forbidden records, killed by your own desperation. The girl will be executed for your murder. And I'll comfort your grieving father while ensuring the throne passes to someone more malleable." Cassius lunged. Adrian dodged, his vampire reflexes saving him from the first strike. But Cassius was ancient, far older and more powerful than Adrian had realized. The blade sliced across Adrian's shoulder, and pain exploded through him, the dark magic burning like acid. They fought through the archives, destroying centuries of records. Adrian was younger, faster, but Cassius had skill earned over lifetimes. Another slash caught Adrian's ribs. Then his thigh. He was losing. He thought of Isla. Of her face when she'd said he deserved better than her. Of how she'd loved him enough to let him go, to destroy herself rather than let him sacrifice his crown. She'd made her choice. Now he had to make his. Adrian stopped retreating. Stopped defending. He charged forward, accepting the blade that Cassius drove toward his heart. It pierced his chest, agony radiating through his entire body. But it gave Adrian the opening he needed. He grabbed Cassius's arm, pulling the older vampire close. "Guards!" Adrian shouted with everything he had. "Guards, to the archives!" Cassius tried to pull the blade free, to finish it, but Adrian held on with desperate strength. His blood poured over the documents, the evidence of Cassius's crimes. If he died here, at least the truth would be visible. Footsteps thundered. Guards poured into the archives, and behind them, King Nathaniel himself, drawn by the commotion. What is the meaning of "the king's words died as he took in the scene"? Adrian, bleeding from multiple wounds, holding Lord Cassius. The ancient vampire with a blade buried in the prince's chest. Documents spread everywhere, including the letter from King Magnus. "Father," Adrian gasped. "Cassius," he confessed. "All of it. The parasite. Mother's death. Grandfather's murder. It was all him." "Lies," Cassius said quickly, trying to pull away. "The prince is under compulsion. He attacked me. I was defending." "Then why," King Nathaniel said coldly, "is your blade in my son's heart, and not the other way around?" Cassius's face went blank. He'd miscalculated. King Nathaniel moved faster than Adrian had ever seen him move. He ripped Cassius away, throwing the ancient vampire against the stone wall with enough force to crack the bones. "Seize him. Bind him with iron and shadow ward chains. And someone help my son before he bleeds out." Hands caught Adrian as his legs gave out. A healer was already chanting, pulling the dark magic from his wounds. But Adrian fought against them. "Isla," he gasped. "Father, Isla and Clara. They're innocent. All the evidence was planted. You have to stop the exile. Please." King Nathaniel knelt beside his son, and for the first time in years, Adrian saw real emotion in his father's eyes. Fear. Regret. "I'll handle it. Rest now. Promise me," Adrian insisted, gripping his father's arm with bloody fingers. "Promise me you'll bring her back." "I promise," the king said. "I swear on your mother's memory, I'll make this right." Only then did Adrian let the darkness take him. Adrian woke to softness. A bed, clean linens, the smell of healing herbs. His chest ached, but the burning agony was gone. He opened his eyes to find his father sitting in a chair beside the bed, looking older than Adrian had ever seen him. "How long?" Adrian asked, his voice rough. 2 days, Nathaniel said. "The blade was cursed. The healers fought hard to save you." He paused, then added quietly, "You almost died for the truth." That took courage I'm not sure I possess. "Isla and Clara," Adrian said immediately, trying to sit up. "Are safe," his father assured him. "I stopped the exile myself. They're in guest quarters, under royal protection. Clara has been compensated for her years of service and the false accusations. And Isla..." He hesitated. "She's refused to see you." The words hit harder than Cassius's blade. "What?" "She believes you're better off without her. That even with the truth revealed, a prince and a human servant have no future. She's asked permission to leave the kingdom voluntarily once you've recovered." "No," Adrian said, throwing off the blankets. His legs wobbled but held. "Where is she?" "Adrian, you should rest." "Where is she?" Adrian demanded. His father sighed. "The garden. Where you apparently spent many evenings. She goes there every morning." Adrian didn't bother changing from his sleep clothes. He walked barefoot through the castle halls, ignoring the startled looks from servants and nobles. His chest screamed in protest, but he didn't care. He found her beneath the ancient oak, exactly where she'd been the first time he'd kissed her. She wore a simple dress, her hair loose around her shoulders. She was crying quietly, and the sight broke something in him. "Isla," he said softly. She jumped, turning to face him. Her eyes widened. "Adrian, you shouldn't be out of bed. Your wounds are healed enough," he said, walking toward her. "We need to talk." "There's nothing to talk about," Isla said, wiping her tears quickly. "I'm glad you're recovering. And I'm glad the truth came out. But that doesn't change anything between us." "It changes everything," Adrian said. "You were right all along. About the conspiracy, about Cassius, about all of it. You saved my life twice, Isla. Once when you were 6, and again by teaching me to see the truth." "I'm still human," Isla said desperately. "You're still a prince. Your father might have pardoned us, but the court will never accept me. I'll always be the servant's daughter who bewitched you. Every decision you make, they'll question. Every law you pass, they'll wonder if I influenced you. I'll weaken you. Or you'll strengthen me," Adrian countered. "Isla, for 10 years you've made me better. Sharper. Kinder. More just. Every king needs someone who tells them the truth, who questions their assumptions, who sees what they miss. You're not my weakness. You're my greatest advantage. The court can adjust," Adrian said firmly. "My father is already implementing changes. Cassius's conspiracy went deep. A dozen nobles were complicit or complacent. They're being removed, and new houses are being elevated. Competent vampires who earned their positions, not inherited them. The entire power structure is shifting." He stepped closer, taking her hands in his. They were still warm, still perfect. "And when I'm king, I'll shift it further. Humans won't just be servants. They'll have rights, representation, opportunities. I'll build the kingdom we talked about in all those late-night conversations. But I need you beside me to do it." Tears spilled down Isla's cheeks. "As what? Your advisor? Your secret lover? What place could I possibly have in your world?" "As my queen," Adrian said simply. Isla's breath caught. "That's impossible." A 6-year-old human child pulled a parasitic organism from my ear that dozens of royal physicians missed. A conspiracy that spanned 40 years was uncovered by a servant girl who could see energy. I fought my father for you, and he's now advocating for our union because he sees what I see. You're extraordinary, Isla. Nothing about us has ever been possible, and yet here we stand. Your people will rebel, Isla whispered. Some will, Adrian agreed. And we'll face them together. Some will accept it. And gradually, more will follow. Change doesn't happen instantly, but it does happen. And it starts with us refusing to accept that love has boundaries. He cupped her face gently, brushing away her tears with his thumbs. That day in the throne room, you said you weren't worth me giving up my crown. You were wrong. You're worth that and more. But the beautiful thing is, I don't have to choose. I can have both. I can be king and I can have you, if you'll just stop trying to protect me by sacrificing yourself. I'm scared, Isla admitted. I'm terrified of failing you. Of not being enough. You pulled a monster from my ear when you were 6 years old, Adrian said, smiling through his own tears. You've been enough since the moment you looked at me and said I fixed you. You didn't just fix my hearing, Isla. You fixed everything I thought was broken about my life. Isla let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. That's not fair. Using my own words against me. I learned from the best, Adrian said. Then, more seriously, I love you. I've loved you for years. And I'm choosing you. I'm choosing us. The only question is whether you'll choose us too. For a long moment, Isla just looked at him. He could see the war happening behind her eyes. Fear versus hope. Doubt versus love. Then slowly, surely, she smiled. You're absolutely impossible, she said. Is that a yes? It's a you're going to drive me crazy for the rest of our lives, Isla said. But yes. Yes, I choose us. I choose you. Even though it terrifies me. Adrian kissed her then, deep and sure. She kissed him back, her arms wrapping around his neck, and it felt like coming home. Like every missing piece finally clicking into place. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Isla pressed her forehead to his. Your father really approves of this? He said, and I quote, a woman who can see through lies and pull monsters from dark places is exactly what a king needs beside him. Especially a king who will inherit the mess I'm leaving behind, Adrian recounted. I think you impressed him. I terrified him as more likely, Isla said. But she was smiling. That too, Adrian agreed. But terror and respect aren't mutually exclusive in vampire politics. They stood together in the garden as the sun climbed higher. There would be challenges ahead. Court politics to navigate, traditions to challenge, enemies to face. But they'd faced impossible things before. Tell me about this queen thing, Isla said eventually. Because I don't know the first thing about being royalty. Good thing you have a prince who's willing to teach you, Adrian said. Fair warning, I'm a demanding instructor. I pulled a centipede from your ear, Isla pointed out. I think I can handle whatever you throw at me. Adrian laughed, the sound pure and joyful. He could hear his own laughter, hear the birds in the trees, hear Isla's heartbeat steady and strong. Every sound was a gift she'd given him. But the greatest gift wasn't his hearing. It was her. It had always been her. 3 months later, the kingdom gathered for a coronation unlike any in vampire history. King Nathaniel had chosen to step down early, acknowledging that the kingdom needed fresh leadership untainted by the old corruption. Adrian would become king. And beside him, wearing a crown specially forged for the occasion, would be Isla. The first human queen in vampire history. The ceremony was held at sunset, that liminal time between day and night, human hours and vampire hours. Symbolic, Isla had suggested, and Adrian's father had agreed. Some nobles had protested. A few had even left court entirely. But most had stayed, curious or calculating, were genuinely hopeful about what this new era might bring. Clara sat in the front row, tears streaming down her face, wearing fine clothes that still seemed to make her uncomfortable. But she was smiling. Her daughter, the little girl who'd noticed what no one else could see, was becoming a queen. As the crown was placed on Isla's head, she met Adrian's eyes. He saw the fear still there, the doubt that she belonged in this moment. But he also saw determination, courage, and love. The ceremony concluded. The crowd erupted in mixed cheers and uncertain applause. Adrian took Isla's hand, raising it high. "My queen," he said, his voice carrying through the hall. "My partner. My equal. The woman who saved my life and changed my kingdom. I am honored beyond measure." Isla squeezed his hand, then did something that shocked every noble in attendance. She turned to the crowd and spoke, her voice clear and steady. "I know many of you doubt me. Doubt that a human belongs beside a vampire king. I understand. I doubted it too. But King Adrian has taught me that the greatest service we can offer our people is to see clearly, speak honestly, and work toward a kingdom where everyone, vampire and human alike, has a place. I may not have royal blood, but I have eyes that see truth. And I promise you, I will use that gift to serve this kingdom with everything I have." The applause that followed was warmer, more genuine. Not universal acceptance, but a beginning. As they processed out of the ceremony hall, Adrian leaned close to whisper in Isla's ear. "You're a natural." "I'm terrified and completely improvising," Isla whispered back. "Like I said, a natural." That night, they stood together on the balcony overlooking the kingdom, wearing their crowns and wedding rings, both still adjusting to the weight of it all. "Do you ever think about that day?" Isla asked. "When I was 6 and pulled that thing from your ear?" "Every day," Adrian admitted. "It was the day my life truly began." "I just thought you looked sad," Isla said softly. "I wanted to help." "You did more than help," Adrian said, pulling her close. "You gave me everything. Sound. Truth. Love. A future I never imagined I could have." "We gave each other everything," Isla corrected. "You taught me I was worth more than I believed. That I could be more." They stood in comfortable silence, listening to the sounds of the kingdom settling into night. Then Isla smiled, that mischievous expression Adrian had fallen in love with years ago. "So, my king," she said playfully. "What's our first official act as rulers?" Adrian pretended to consider seriously. "I was thinking we could start by completely reforming the education system to include human children. Then restructure the council to include human representatives. Then maybe address the land distribution inequalities we found in the eastern provinces." "Ambitious," Isla said approvingly. "I learned from the best," Adrian said, echoing his words from the garden months ago. "You're going to keep saying that, aren't you?" "For the rest of our lives," Adrian confirmed. Isla laughed, and the sound was music he would never tire of hearing. "Then I suppose I should keep being extraordinary." "You couldn't stop if you tried," Adrian said, and kissed her beneath the stars. They had challenges ahead. Resistance to overcome. Traditions to carefully dismantle and rebuild. But they had each other. And they had something that no conspiracy, no curse, no ancient prejudice could destroy. They had love that had survived impossible odds. And that, Adrian knew, was the strongest magic of all. So here we are at the end of this journey. A deaf prince who found his hearing. A servant's daughter who became a queen. Two souls who refused to accept that love had boundaries. Now I need to know something from you, and I mean this sincerely. What moment in this story hit you the hardest? Was it when Isla pulled that creature from Adrian's ear? When they kissed in the garden? When everything shattered in the throne room? Or when they finally chose each other despite everything? Drop your answer in the comments because your thoughts, your feelings, they matter to me more than you know. And if you've watched this entire story, felt every emotion, rode every twist and turn, and you haven't subscribed yet, I have to ask, why not? We're building something special here. And sometimes, all it takes is someone who sees clearly what everyone else missed.